Life! Life, do you hear me? Give my creation life!
Again, I told you myself! I told you! Yes!
Bancroft, you're going down. I got bug listens. Aussie, I'm gonna flossy your butthole.
Mel, get my fairy red trackies. It's time to build some hurtin' bombs. Going down, Narwhal.
Welcome everybody to the show. Chinwag time, bit of a chat, fireside chat. I even got myself a little fire just in preparation. Doesn't that look cozy? We're gonna sit there together, Pete and I. We're gonna continue our chat that we started over on his channel. Who knows where it will go? You never quite know when you get Pete around. Thank you very much for being here. I'm just going to very quickly say hello to those of you in the chat who did come first and honor you. Mo Biggs was the initial one. We got Jose Garcia in the house. He's going to watch it on replay. Casey Anthony was here saying, damn, I'm early. Ryu said, woo. It wasn't until Paulus Arts came in all the time later and claimed first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then gave up. But you didn't need to give up because that gave you the honor. I needed to upload it and I forgot to before the stream. Let me just do that very quickly. Oh no. Oh no. It says I can't. I've got too many things in the old thing here. Let me get rid of this. That'll help that. Sorry. Professionalism. All-time high on this channel. I will bring you in a second, Pete. All right, let me, what do I do? Move this over here, move that up. There he is. Finally, Paulus Arts is on it. And look who's right there. All right, let me see if I can do this. I'm going to take that down. I'm going to take us over to the campfire. And then bring Pete in. Hey! How do you feel?
Feels
Hold on a sec.
Feels good.
Not hearing you. Okay, are you there? Can I hear you?
I'm there.
You're there. Good.
It's
yeah,
very
let's
warm here
hang on.
today.
Which way is it? Yeah. Did you bring marshmallows?
I didn't. It's very warm here today for an April day in the States. It hit like
Is it
84 or 85 Fahrenheit. I don't know what the hell.
Oh,
that
so
is.
you're enjoying
Celsius
being
or
in front of the
Fahrenheit?
fire then.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's great.
Casey Anthony says this is really romantic. It is so romantic. There's something about it. I don't know if you ever make yourself a fire, get a fire pit out in the backyard or whatever. But anytime we do, I just find myself standing there and just staring at it for hours on end.
Right.
It's something primal.
Let me see. I'm putting echo cancellation on the mic. Am I coming through louder?
You're louder now. I can hear you better now.
All right, StreamYard, I swear.
Mo says, let's pick up the romance a notch. Send Valley Law the link.
They
It'll
did
just
some
be
kind of
Pete and
update
I.
a while ago, StreamYard, and the audio's all screwy now.
Everything is screwy. Everything.
Can't just leave well enough alone.
I know, right? I mean, they had a good thing going there for a while, and then it just, and now you got to, if you want to share something, you got to unshare it first. It's a complete disaster.
Yeah,
we're trying to up our professionalism, as you can see here by this display. Look, I can bring up chats. Critical Read says this looks exciting, so I'm using one of these custom layouts here to do this.
Oh, all right, nice.
And also, as well, by the way, let's get this party started with a bang. I did, for the first time ever, I did one of these super chat goals. Have you ever done them? Have you seen that?
I've seen it, but I've never done it.
I've never done it either. And I said, you know what? We got Pete on here. I have an idea. How about if we get 5 super chats, I will draw a King Crypted card later today. I'll make a short about it. So we'll do like I'll get a short for Pete.
Nice.
And I'll give it away to someone here in the chat. I thought that's a cool win-win. Let's see how it goes. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's cool. Check out Critical Reads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 69. He did them all in one go. Shout out to the absolute. Now I need to give that's like a proper. I mean, all in one. I got to play this one.
Absolute madland.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much. There we go. So I guess that's happening. So that means, and you know what, I'm going to draw 2 because Critical Reads paid the whole $25 there. So I'll do one for him, and I will do another one to give away to someone here in the chat. But how do I do that? That means you've got to type rigged in the chat. If you type rigged in the chat, you will be in the running. I already typed rigged, so I will be in the running as well, which is normal. I have won my own giveaways before. We'll
rigged indeed.
If I win, I don't know, maybe I'll send it to Pete.
Can I type rigged? Am I allowed?
Yeah, you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. Of course you can.
Riggedy rig. There it is.
Riggedy rig. How many we got already? We got 9 already. Fantastic. Thank you everybody for being here. So if you aren't aware, I know I had to say hello. Did I say hello to people? Did I say hail to Mo Biggs, the Golden Wrench? I don't know if I did. I know I did at the start. I did. Okay, sorry, I'm getting kerfuffled here. Getting confused. Look at everyone typing rigged here in the chat. If you weren't aware, Pete and I had an awesome chat. Was it a week ago? Almost a week ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it was last Thursday, the 10th.
Over on your channel, and we got into the weeds. We went ancient. We went biblical. It's all the stuff that you and I love. And it all started from one question. Before I get to that, I do have to honor this man right here who just gave the 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Smiling Bandito. Ben Sabah, the voice actor. Dan Crane, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Agent Cub and Lombasi, all gifted memberships. Thank you very much, Bandito. Absolute bloody legend.
You little ripper!
5 memberships for a second drawing. All right. Well, I'll do 3 then. Like, I don't know how many I can product. I don't want to spend all afternoon doing sketch cards though, but I will. Maybe because you got lots of characters. Maybe I'll do different characters from your.
Yeah, I've got. Wait, did you get your books yet? Because you ordered them and then they shipped.
I go Critical Blast. So
yeah,
I haven't yet. No.
Oh, come on! I sent those out.
I know. I've been yours and Clint Stoker's. I've been waiting for so long, and haven't got them yet. But
I know you got them digitally, but it's it's not the same.
It's not the same. I do want. I mean, you do it. You're the guy. You're the guy who does it. Like no one else does it. So
I'm trying to keep it that way. It's getting harder and harder. The modern times are encroaching upon the awesome old ways of printing. I'm finding. I had a conversation with a printer yesterday. And he was saying, because we were both talking about what's up with the fact that it seems like recycled and newsprint and natural paper stocks are all more expensive than the alleged premium stocks. And he was saying that now there's all these like certifications involved. They sexied it up. It's marketed and all this other stuff. And so now it's all expensive. He's like, 10, 15, 20 years ago, this was crap paper, but now it's more expensive because they found a way to market it.
I don't know if it's the same over there, but here, all the old cottages where the poors used to live, the laborers, who would work in the factories, they're the hot place to live now. They beautify them up, and now you can go and live in these little cute cottages. Everyone else has to live in these stinking new modern McMansion monstrosities, and everything's upside down.
It really is
crazy. I want to ask you something after I just grabbed this super chat. Thank you, Phil. Wow, lots of super chats tonight. Mike, I did ship out your Psycho Slumber package today, so RJ has another one for the pile. Excellent. Well, that means that could tip it over. Thank you so much,
How many
Phil.
does it take? How many does he weigh on?
I think it's like a 2 or 3 pound box. Makes it most economical. So usually I get about 6 or so campaigns in there. Usually something like that, depending if there's a hard cover.
Hopefully that'll be enough then to justify shipping things to you that I shipped out 2 months ago.
Well, it's about $50 Australian to get the package from RJ.
You're telling me. I know it is. I shipped a whole bunch out directly.
It's about $50 shipping just for one book. So you may as well get, 6 or 7 in there.
Once it goes past the 4 pound rate, the price really skyrockets. I don't know how it is with the Australia to US, but US, it's like it stays within first class mail. And then once it goes over 4 pounds, you got to send it priority or something else like that. And then I've got that sweet business deal. So I have just one tier that I'm in, and it just however much it weighs is how much you pay. So it's actually pretty sweet. Nice.
If anyone has a link to either Alterna or kingcrypted.com, you can pop that in the chat and I will pin it so that everyone knows where to go find Pete and his wares. And also Valley Law. Wow, you guys are so generous tonight. Thank you very much. He just said the fire. Here, this is joining the Fireside chat here. Thank you very much. $10 super chat. We're staying warm. What is the paper?
I gotta like Jimi Hendrix this,
What is the paper? I've got a Watchman trade paperback, and it's not newsprint, and it's not glossy. It's sort of like a nice uncoated, and the colors on it are just like, it's like every single color is a spot color almost. It's so beautiful, and no one makes it anymore.
It might be two of the more popular premium, like kind of within newsprint, but not really newsprint paper stocks of that era were like Mando paper and Baxter paper. So it might be that.
I'm just not seeing anyone make comics in that anymore. And to me, it's the best paper because, I mean, some of my trades are, who knows how old they are, 30 years old, whatever they are. And they are pristine. I mean, they're completely rat shit, the books, but the print is just immaculate.
Oh, they're great.
And I get shocked every time I open it up. And I'm like, oh, it looks so cool. It's so bright and vibrant.
Yeah, I know something happened with Mando paper where the rights and the territorial of that whole aspect of the logging and paper industry, and it was like specific trees from a specific area, and it was all the stuff.
We were killing squirrels for good
something. Which is crazy because nowadays, they really can just pulp it to death and then recycle it up and maybe bleach it a little bit and get it to be pretty good, or maybe not bleach it, depending how much bleach they put on the thing. It brightens up the paper, but it's becoming more and more impossible. Like I said, the guy I was talking to yesterday, he was even complaining with me. We were commiserating about how much all these paper stocks nowadays, a lot of the uncoated ones are so smooth. There's no tooth to them anymore. There's no texture, and the warmth of them is gone. Everything is going more and more towards this like blindingly bright white paper, even the uncoated paper. There's just this garish insanity.
Yeah,
You know,
my
I'm gonna
printer
probably have
now
to start
is
hunting down. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm gonna
no,
probably
no.
have to start hunting down like a coloring book printer or something to see.
Well,
Can you guys possibly do this?
the guy I go with has been in the industry for decades. He's just the best guy. A little expensive, but so worth it. Any issue, he'll fix it up for you free of charge. And you know, I've been working with him since I started in graphic design in the year 2000. And you know, these I can say that to them. I can say I want a really toothy paper because I'm printing black and white. I can't stand black and white on anything that even is remotely glossy. I want that toothy, rough paper if it's going to be black and white. So I totally get what you mean, but yeah, it is kind of a bit harder to find now.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It is on fire. Well read. Yes, we've noticed. We're having a fireside chat. I actually googled that. What the hell is a fireside chat? Apparently, it was an old radio show. And you're into radio, and you're the Mr. Comic Book Radio. It was an old radio show from the 20s or something that they called a fireside chat, and it just sort of stuck.
Wasn't
Me.
That because people would listen to it at night and they had the fireplace on, and
That's what we used to do. Now we play video games and ignore each other and sit on the phone.
Yeah, now we do what, like, if this was the natural way of us sitting, I would be like this talking to you.
Yeah. Hang on.
And you'd be like there, and we'd be like
this. Did you see this
married couple? You know.
Yeah.
yeah. Whatever.
We're all guilty of it. There you go. FDR, fireside chats on the radio. That's it.
Yeah.
What does Brian say? It's saying arrange stove shopping over the last few weeks. It was like $500 to get knobs for the burners. The world is nuts. The world is nuts. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I was going to come to the States. I was going to be in the States soon, but then just the world became nuts and almost impossible to live in. And now I'm like, I can't really justify money to go over and hang out with people anymore, which is a shame because that's really what I want to do.
You know what you really need with this fire? You need a sound effect of fire crackling, like it's the log at this time.
I thought that, but then I wondered if that would be annoying. I did think of that.
I like that sound. I don't know. Do people like that sound? I like it.
Can you add music? Can I search for it?
I don't know, man. You'd probably be searching for a while.
Yeah. I don't know how to. You can get like background sounds and stuff, but it's it's like this.
Yeah. So they give you the 5, and that's about it.
Feeding the ducks.
Feeding the ducks is insane.
Let's not do that.
Like, why would
Let's not do that.
Yeah, that one is horrible. I use night driving sometimes, and then I have another one that I downloaded that's royalty free that I use.
Night driving. Oh no, there it is. Right there it is.
Yeah, that one's okay. Lo-fi is
that
okay.
reminds me.
But yeah, feeding the ducks it gets so stupidly weird.
I've got one called The Sax Man Is Back. Where did I get these?
The sax. Right, yeah, this is kind of for the mood. All right.
Now we really do have to invite Valley Law if I keep playing this.
I need a robe for this, maybe a smoking jacket.
I don't know about this, Pete.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, if we do it again, I'll get the crackling sound effects, and we'll do.
Yeah.
Was it the sax man or the sex man? I don't quite know.
It's a bit of both,
You asked me a great question when I was on your show. You said, what inspired me to make, start making my comic and everything. I thought I would throw that back in your face and maybe get a conversation started there. And we know you've got, you got a ton of stuff, but let's go with King Crypted. What's
It's a bit of everything, and I think I was into paranormal stuff longer than I was into comics, and I was into comics for as long as I can remember. And I would be like 5 years old or whatever it is when you can go to the library when you're a kid, and I'm taking out like these weird books, like the Time Life books and the Mysteries of the Pyramids, Bigfoot, Loch Ness, Bermuda Triangle, all that stuff.
You always had to kind of fight for them if they're in your school library. Everyone wanted them.
I was lucky because we had one room in my elementary school library that was like sci-fi, science, fantasy. It was just all this stuff that's so cool. It just it was a race to go back there and pick out anything and everything. And that was kind of, I think, what went hand in hand with why I loved comics so much, was because it was just, I was obsessed with stuff that you just wouldn't see in the day to day. And then so comics kind of scratched that itch, but then all that other stuff really reinforced it, because it made it seem like the comics were just that much closer to being reality. And even though it wasn't, it felt like, but what if, like, what if that's possible, and it just made my imagination go nuts. And so King Cryptid really is a long time coming. But it was one of those things where I just wasn't maybe comfortable yet as a creator in how to approach the story,
Yeah.
because I wanted to do an ongoing series. I didn't want to have it like a one and done graphic novel. I didn't want to have a mini series. I wanted to have something that centered around a character, basically King Cryptid, and
Like
his
episodic.
adventures and his journeys and the characters he meets, and really kind of have this nice story that evolves over time. And getting into the comic industry about 20 years ago, it was really difficult to find a place when I could actually do a book like that. It
Yeah.
felt like maybe I can't ever really do that. And then
Well,
eventually crowdfunding came along and the indie stuff really started to flourish. And it was like, well, maybe this is a possibility. I'll give it a shot. So that's kind of how that all came about.
I don't know when you got into comics, what year it was. What year?
Let me see. Maybe I can remember reading comics back in maybe like 88, and like
Mhm.
I wasn't really reading them because I didn't really know how to read, but I was looking through them. I still have the comics I had when I was a kid, and they're
Yeah, me too.
beaten all to hell, but I love them.
I gave them to my kids and they love them as well.
Yeah,
But I was just thinking, a lot of that monster stuff, that sort of feels like it came beforehand.
yeah, there
Whereas
was that
when
era.
we kind of got into it, it was now you're
Yeah,
starting getting like almost the image boom is about to happen. It's just superheroes and superhero universe and stuff, which is cool at the time. I liked it,
yeah.
but
But there was that second wave of it though too that came along with like the paranormal, supernatural horror heroes. Like there was Sleepwalker, there was Ghost Rider with the volume 2 with Danny Ketch, and that was kind of catching fire, no pun intended. And then like I really got into I was lucky enough as a kid. One of my first ones that I had was the Hulk when McFarlane was drawing it.
Mhm.
And so just like
The
the way he
Crazy
drew
Hulk.
the Hulk was, it was just, he was just a monster, like flat
Yeah.
out, just this really frightening looking character. So everything about that, like I always loved the Thing and Fantastic Four and just all that kind of stuff. I always gravitated to these kinds of characters. Loved Wolverine when he was really just kind of this man monster guy, like you
Mhm.
didn't really know, is he like part wolf in there? Is there some kind of, they would draw him, he'd have like these extended canines sometimes, he'd get in his berserker rages. So he was just like this dude that was like this crazy little ball of insanity. And so he was fun to read at that point, and I loved any issue with him and Sabretooth. So when I was a kid, I would go to the shop, and if I saw Wolverine and Sabretooth on the cover, I would try to get that issue because I knew it would be a good, fun story. But all those kinds of characters, there were always like this, there's something darker about them. I gravitated towards them. Even I loved Spider-Man, but like any kind of issue, like McFarlane's Spider-Man, the adjectiveless one, I really love that storyline with Wendigo and Wolverine and that whole thing. That was great. So it's always like these weird. Even when I was a kid, I always gravitated more towards these kind of darker characters and their creature aspects.
Did you ever go back and read some of the older creature stories and stuff like that, like the weird what is it, like Strange Tales and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, they're fun. I mean, they didn't quite storytelling wise sometimes scratch like the itch of like, because I like a character that I could really get familiar with.
Mhm.
But like in terms of the plot and the scenario and the setup and things like that, like they were really fun.
Yeah, I
And
mean, obviously, I haven't read King Cryptid yet. It's in escrow for me. It's in transit, in perpetuity, but it will get to me eventually. But no, because I sort of see some kind of, at least visually, some sort of parallels there. Because
yeah,
when I I got into comics in the early 90s, and yeah, all superhero stuff. And then as I grew up and I just kind of drifted away and Marvel started doing weird things, I still wanted to read comics. I didn't want to read them. So I went backwards and started collecting mostly 80s, some 70 books as well. Yeah, and I was really happy with how dark and weird and strange they all were. I didn't get many monster books, but I have some. I have a couple. Yeah, they were cool. I mean, I don't remember them specifically, but I remember liking them.
Yeah, I really like the storytelling style of the Bronze Age, especially as the Bronze Age transitions a bit into, like, I don't know what they call it, the Copper Age, the Modern Age, the current. It's
I
like
only heard the Copper Age for the first time yesterday, I think. I never heard that.
But whatever that was, like that transitional phase between the end of the Bronze Age and into like the mid 80s, like that's a nice sweet spot. And then it really keeps going, but it does mutate a bit in the late 80s, and then the early 90s hit, and it seems like it plateaus a bit, and then it goes all over the place after like 92, 93, and then I think it nosedived to hell in like 96, 97. Like there's a lot of stuff from that time period that I just really can't.
Ellie calls it the garbage age. Yeah, I dipped out completely around that time for a long time. It was actually making my own comic. I mean, I got into the Euro stuff, making my own comic, and then sort of listening to YouTubers like your boy Zach, and that got me back into Western stuff. But now I'm just creator owned. I don't even mess with the mainstream stuff anymore. Even when people say, "Oh no, this is really good," I'm like, nah. There's just so much more life and creativity, I feel like, if you are making it yourself. If it's your story and you're taking it in weird places and you're doing things, because you have to do something to stand out if you're not mainstream. You know, you got to do something to catch people's attention.
And we kind of are in a really fortunate position that maybe we don't realize sometime, where there's so much that's come before us that we can learn from what they did right, what they did wrong, what we really liked about things, what we didn't, and build upon that and incorporate that into our own works. And there's so much to learn. It's like comics at this point for me. It's a fun thing as a reader, but it's also I view them in like a different kind of aspect now too, almost like a historian type aspect of looking back at stuff and seeing how things evolved, seeing how the storytelling was, certain aspects of what the elements of the art and the writing style, and how if you really pay attention, you can kind of just catch different elements without even knowing who the creator is, and eventually you learn their style. And even writers, you learn their style and how they go about it. And it brought about something so great that I think is so valuable as a creator right now. And a lot of those guys didn't have that, especially the people who basically built the whole industry. They didn't have any of that. They just kind of went into it, and they were like, I guess we have comic strips, but I don't really want to make that. Like, they were really being inspired by kind of putting visuals to, radio dramas and stuff.
Back in the old days, I've learned this out. Have you seen that guy Matt? His channel, MATTTTTT, like that. Have you checked out his channel?
Oh yeah.
Love his videos. Just like the best comic book videos being made on YouTube, hands down. And he was showing how that they went from that transition from strips to books and everything. And it all came about, correct me if I'm wrong, because they had paper. They had surplus of paper, and they were like, well, let's print this stuff on it and sell it to kids. I think that's how it came about. But
yeah, a lot of the newsprint, the newspaper printers.
Yeah, they were inventing it. They were inventing how to do it as they go. And the writer would get a page, do the panels, and put the balloons in there, and put all the writing, and then the artist would go in and draw around it, or however he could fit it.
Yeah, like imagine that, like 100 or so years ago, an entire thing that we all love and we've lived with our whole lives was invented. Like before that point, if you go back like 200 years ago, there's no comic books. You'd be like, what the hell's a comic book?
You have to draw it on the wall,
right?
And it was all erotic. They dig up.
It's like that South Park episode where they're drawing the boobs on the wall.
Yeah. That's what they. That's why I think they don't want to. they don't want to dig up too much stuff because they're just waiting to find the porn on the wall of little statues of people banging. Because that's usually
well,
what they
it's all. I mean, yeah, you go back to all those ancient civilizations and the fertility statues and stuff.
What else are you gonna do?
You know,
Yeah.
If you look at the stars, you levitate stone and you build little statues with giant boobs and penises.
Fast forward to like I guess the 70s and 80s when people said, well, we want to just make comics ourselves. And they were the first ones to do what we're doing. So they had to build that as well. Like when we think about how hard it is to make comics today, it's usually hard because you're screaming into of this throng. There's like millions of people making comics, and there's millions of points of interest that anyone can turn to at any time to be distracted away from what you're making. Whereas back then it was more, how do you even do this? How do you find people? How do you get it printed? And there's no tutorials. And like when I wanted to make a comic, I knew I could already draw, but I didn't really know how to draw comics. So I just went onto YouTube and I was like, all right, what are the basics you need to know to learn how to draw comics? And I just watched a whole bunch of tutorials. They didn't have any of that back then.
Yeah, no, they didn't. And that's the crazy part is somewhere along the way, like it was really difficult, like what you're talking about. The hardest part was making the comic, and then the hardest part became getting the word out about the comic. And now it's become like this weird thing where we have so much at our disposal, where you have all this information to make the comic, all this information to market the comic, all these resources before you, but yet because the playing field is so level, it's now like a battle of, well, how do I cut through the noise? How do I get attention? And how do I do that in a way that isn't maybe detrimental to what I'm trying to achieve with what I'm creating? And it's like this daily struggle, I think, for a lot of creators. It's definitely a struggle for me of, well, what the hell do you do? It's you get out there, you put your comic out, you hope that things work, you keep working on your craft as much as you can, but there's like a weird kind of a balance that's out of whack. And I feel like sometimes for no reason at all, maybe things work for a creator with whatever they're doing to market themselves or however their personality is. It resonates with others. And then there's other people that maybe not so much, but there's and I've seen a lot of this, and sometimes it's directed to other people, sometimes it's been directed to me, where some people are kind of odd in terms of their approach to this, and they get resentful and jealous and weird, and they start going like, well, I don't think I have to make a YouTube, or I shouldn't have to talk about my comic, it should be able to sell itself. But I mean, that's a lot of words to say. I'm really awkward and I can't really talk properly when I do these interview things or go on YouTube. But
you might say, well, these guys didn't have to have YouTube channels.
The thing is that at the same time, though, they're completely wrong, because there's nothing that's ever just sold itself. There's no comic that ever just sold itself. When you think of comic books, and a lot of people sometimes are resentful towards this man, but Stan Lee. So if you think about what Stan Lee did, even if he didn't write a single word, which obviously he wrote a lot of the comics, but even if he didn't write anything, the amount of marketing and push and exuberance that he brought to get the attention of the reader to read the comics that everybody was working on, that benefited the entire industry. And there's so many people sometimes, I wonder, like, they're so resentful of Stan Lee, but it's like, if it wasn't for Stan Lee, I don't even know if you guys would know what the hell a comic book is. So the amount of work that dude did to be like the megaphone of an entire medium is insane. Whether you love him or hate him or whatever, you remove Stan Lee from the picture, being the way he was, who the hell else is out there spreading the word of comics in a capacity that would get the attention of pretty much the entire world? I mean, I think we're finding out a lot of that right now. Without someone like that, we're all just a bunch of trees falling in the forest, and no one. That is
so true. The people assume that just because it was done in the past by this, this super enigmatic person, this visionary type person comes around and changes everything, then you can just take what he made and continue on growing into the future with that. And time again, it never happens. It all falls apart. It's like in every single thing, from every business to even like, in power structures, like, whenever the leader disappears, there's always that power vacuum, and then there's a fight, and then it all just kind of crumbles and falls apart. But you're so right. Like, bring it back to comics. I learned about comics because my friend said, we're all collecting comics now. You got to go collect some comics. So I went down to the local news agency, and there was a wall of amazing early 90s comics, a huge selection. And you're like, all right, well, I just sort of, those comics sold themselves because they were cool and everything. But why were they even there in the first place? Why was there a huge wall in a news agency? And we have these news agencies, we used to have them, every shopping area scattered across the whole country. It's probably like 10 or so within, a quick car ride. And they all had a big wall of comics on them. They were there because guys like Stan Lee had built up this industry.
And not to take away anything of the talented individuals who were there. Like, you couldn't have the comic industry without a Jack Kirby or a Steve Ditko or like the hundreds of other people that played their parts as well. But everyone had to do what they were best at. If they were all good at doing the Stan Lee promotion hype man stuff, they all would have done that. But they largely weren't, and they didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So Steve Wozniak wouldn't have sold billions of computers without Steve Jobs, even though he made the computers. Like, that guy isn't selling at big conventions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't know the greatness of these individuals that Lee was surrounded with if it wasn't for what he was doing, if he wasn't like the carnival barker, essentially. So, and it's not to give him too much credit or not enough credit or whatever it is. It's more just like, I see it all the time, of this weird resentment towards people like Stan Lee, where it's like someone's got to go out there and let people know that these things exist. And if you don't want someone else to do it, then you have to do it. And if you're not good at it, you got to learn how to get better at it. That's all it is.
I feel like you're leading us towards your pitch show, which I watched last week.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny what's going on with that show. There used to be a huge queue of budding creators wanting to jump on and practice and get, because you give, like, you don't pull your punches. You stop them and say, hey, I gotta hear this and this. But the last 2 weeks I've watched, it's like a couple of people come on, and it's changed. The scene has changed a little bit over the last couple of years.
And I'm not entirely gonna blame it on like the landscape or the scene or the other people at this point, but it is something that because obviously I had taken a step back from that particular show for a while, and I largely did it because of what I'm experiencing now. It just felt like there's a lot of people where they get 5 minutes, and if you only have 5 minutes to talk about your book, you gotta really do a good job of talking about your book. And a good way to stay on course with that 5 minutes is the 5 W's. And that's kind of something that, at least in America, I don't know how it is in Australia, but in America, they drill it into your head in school, who, what, where, when, why. And I leave off the how, because you don't really need the how.
How starts with H anyway. So
yeah, exactly. What good is that?
Need it.
So the 5 W's is a good way to stay on target for what's going to matter. And you literally can give a minute to each, and there's your 5 minutes. So it should be 5 minutes that goes relatively quickly and concisely. But there's a lot of people that I don't know if it's the time frame. I don't know if they're not thinking about it in that way. But even when I think about constructing a King Crypted story, the 5 W's are in my head, because I'm thinking like, okay, who's in this issue? What's going on? Where are they? When is it taking place, especially within the continuity of the story? And why are they doing what they're doing? So if you can answer those basic elements, then you can really start building the rest of that story. And the same thing goes with the pitch.
I'm 100% guilty of not doing that myself, and people will talk about my book so much better than how I talk about it. And I don't know, I think it's like something creators have to get over and learn to
It's
do.
just something
It is
to
a
learn.
practiced skill.
Yeah.
I noticed when I hadn't done it in a while, I was like completely tongue-tied and just rambling. And as Mo says here, between Pete's pitch training and my relentless cyberbullying, Noah actually became a good pitchman. Yeah, I made a video of how good Noah was at pitching his book. It can be learned.
Yeah, I mean the open mic show. I do let people just say what they got to say, but when someone is in there and I'm thinking like, okay, let me just kind of give you some advice and maybe nudge you in a direction, because it feels like you're just kind of sinking right in front of me, and I'm just watching you drown, and that just seems cruel,
Don't
and
go.
I wish someone would do it
hair.
for me. There's times I feel like on the shows that I'm even doing still to this day, I'm like, I think back and I'm like, I should have just shut the hell up. What was I talking about? I wish someone would have
You
been
get
like,
stuck on the
talk about
train.
this
You're
now.
like,
Yeah. But like, especially as a creator though, coming up, I wish like 15 to 20 years ago, I had creators that would have tapped me on the shoulder and been like, think about doing it like this, not like that. And that would have been such a help. So I say it with love. I say it with support. I want to see people succeed. I want to see people grow and learn. I don't want to see people just kind of spinning the wheels and and maybe getting frustrated and resentful and then giving up on making comics, when all it really is just a couple little things, and then they'll set you on the right path. You don't have to do it all for them. Just a couple things, and just let them know, make them be aware of it.
Well, I've got something to think about here. A little question. How much do you think guys like Eric July have affected the approach or mindset that new creators have? Because Eric July had no pitch. No one knew anything about ISIM before it came out. And even now, he's gotten a little better by showing some covers and stuff, but beforehand, a lot of times you won't know until it's out. But I think that sort of changed a little bit. But people are seeing, like, look at this guy, huge audience, and gets hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of books sold that way. And he's not doing it the way that a lot of us were doing it before, by like going around but jumping on a bunch of shows and pitching books and stuff. And just the other day, I read that a guy with 20 million subs put out a manga, and I think he sold like 200,000 copies or something like that. Crazy. Like that, surely that must affect people the way they
Yeah, it shouldn't. I get that it does.
I agree it shouldn't. It doesn't affect me, but I wonder if it does.
Yeah, I think you got to keep it in perspective. So if you want that level of success of what he's had, or someone else, or some other random YouTuber, or whoever the hell, you got to look at, well, how did they build up their audience?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they did. They built up an audience doing something else, talking about something else, and then they parlayed that. And then a fraction of that audience it's always a numbers game anyway. Everything's a numbers game. So if you have like 1 million subscribers and like 10% of them back your book, which is a pretty huge percent, you get 100,000 people backing your book. You're usually going to get more like maybe 1 to 3%. And if you think about it in that respect, it's like, wow, they're really missing a lot of their audience. So you got to just keep it in perspective and look at the success relative to who it is and how they did it. It's not about how good something is. It's not, and I hate that it isn't, but that's just the way everything is. It's not about that. And that's what drives me nuts about the comic distribution system, because the comic distribution system is a numbers game that freaking makes no sense. And it hasn't made sense in a long time. It's like we keep on shrinking the footprint of where we put comics out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're baffled that the industry's dying.
Yeah. I was reading a quote from someone who'd been out of the industry for decades and then just peeked back in. Can't remember who it was, but they left comics for whatever reason, and then they kind of came back in and took a look and couldn't believe the numbers. They were they couldn't believe that editors were on X and Facebook celebrating 50,000 sales. They were like, that's just mind blowing, because they're thinking back in the day millions, and
Yeah, back in the day, like a book, 200,000 sales, it's going to get canceled. Like it's crazy. But that's all this stuff is a numbers game. So if people start getting in a jealousy mindset, which they really shouldn't, it's not going to help them grow. It's not going to help them to succeed. Like, you can hate someone else all you want. You could be jealous of them all you want. That's not going to make you a better writer, a better artist, a better marketer. Look at what he's doing. Even if you don't like what someone's doing, even if you hate their comic, even if you think it's the biggest piece of trash you've ever seen, the dumbest pitch, the worst character, whatever it is, there's always something you can still learn and go, okay, if that's so bad, why are you selling so much? And you got to learn, okay, well, then they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And how long did that take them to grow that audience? And how did they grow that audience? And it doesn't mean you got to emulate and replicate exactly what they're doing, but you got to bring the same level of attitude, knowledge, maybe humor, relentlessness, and consistency that they were bringing that built an audience. And that's tough to do. That part of it is tough to do. But that's the part that, if you want to hone in on their success and why, someone who just comes on the scene and they're all of a sudden, making whatever, but they never really were in the comic scene before. That's the reason why. It's like when Scholastic came out with their whole graphic novel kind of imprint. And I remember seeing people being like, that's amazing for like a first time comics publisher. I want to be like, are you freaking kidding me? Scholastic. You want to treat them like, just because they're now putting out comics, you want to treat them like they just, just came out for the first time. Wow, what success. Of course they've had success. If Scholastic didn't dominate the marketplace when they came out with comics, someone somewhere did something very wrong.
Yeah. You got a line directly in to literally almost every single child's house with this cool catalog, and it's global. Like, we have it here in Australia. It's all over the world. You would have to really stop up.
How would you
go gangbusters?
You would have to actually put effort to lose in that.
I think people were just surprised on how big it did get for things like
and
Bone
see again, that's the thing. They were surprised because we're used to the distribution numbers that we see in the comic industry. But if you have Scholastic's distribution and the numbers game is now tilted to your side, you'd see the same kind of numbers, if not better, across the board for all the other publishers too. So that's why it's something that's driven me nuts within the industry. And there was a time frame, there's a small window of time when Diamond had like what they would define as a benign monopoly, but they had exclusivity with all the publishers. They were the only game in town for distribution, and they squandered the ever-loving crap out of it.
Why did they do that?
Because I think it's a safe bet by harping on the retailer, the smaller retailer, instead of getting involved with the bigger retailer. Because the bigger retailer, you can't go in there and say, pick your comics out of previews. Here's your phone book for the month. Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. Pick some comics out of previews. Tell your customers you got to order from this phone book and wait 2 or 3 or 4 months for these books to come in. And that's how we'll do business with you. No, you
Is that laziness though?
That's
Was that laziness? They just didn't want to.
No, it was predatory. That's totally predatory, because you're harping on these smaller independent retailers and saying, no, this is the system and this is how you do it. And then there became a shift that they didn't want them to do that anymore. Like the retailers would not want Diamond to pursue bigger box retailers. Like when Alterna even did it, when we had newsstand distribution for 2 years, I can't even tell you how many. Dozens of retailers boycotted us, even though they got the books 2 months before we put them out on newsstand. And even though we had a back cover ad that said, go to the comic shop locator and find your local comic shop, because I was trying to get people to go from the newsstand. We had them in Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Sheets, which is kind of like a gas station, 7-Eleven sort of chain. Just a bunch of places throughout even just the world, like independent news agents and stuff like that too. And I would have the comic shop locator as the back cover, which probably could have fetched about $500 for ad space at that point in time. And I was like, no, let's sacrifice it to make sure the comic shops are getting some business sent their way from just even seeing the book. So even if somebody picked the book up, looked at the back cover, they'd go, oh, comic shop locator. Let me go to that. Do I have a comic shop by me? You know, and just go to the comic shop. They wouldn't even need to buy an alternative book, and it would be advertising for comic shops, and the retailers were still pissed at us. So it became this really weird insular system that just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks because everyone is so scared that, oh, if it gets outside the comic shop, then no one's going to go to the comic shop anymore. But that doesn't make any sense, because the best time the comics ever was when you had one hand wash the other. You had the comic shops, you had the newsstand.
Yeah. I found the comics in the news, on the newsstand, in the news agencies, became a fan, heard about comic shops, and I was like, I have to go. And I went there, you know, and it was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever for a, 11-year-old kid. All this stuff is here. It was crazy, as opposed to what they ended up with was these sort of like, that's the be all and end all destination, the only place to get it from. There was a similar thing that happened in the industry that I work in for my day job back in the day, when all the wholesalers would get pissy with the manufacturers and the brands for starting websites, e-commerce websites.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't do that because you're going to take sales away from our wholesale.
Very territorial. They get very scared.
It's like, yeah, but if we don't develop a online presence, then we'll just go under, and then you won't have anything to sell. So, yeah, I like that what you said. Like one hand scratches the other, whatever you said. Like
one hand washes the other.
One hand scratches the other behind, and then they wash their hands.
Like if the back of your hand is itchy, you got to get that other hand in there. But
it just seems so short-sighted to me. It's crazy.
It absolutely is. It's 100% short-sighted, and that's largely a lot of the moves the industry made over the years. And it's one of those things that it didn't grow the industry at all. It kept shrinking it, and we've reached a point where now we think that the quality is the reason Dogman sells more than any American superhero comic. Quality. Yeah, it's insane. It'd be like saying that, okay, so they sell more Snickers bars than they do organic salad. So it's the quality of the Snickers bar.
Most comment here. As if the Lucent could compete with scholastic blockbusters like the stick figure adventures of Silly Billy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole system, it's a distribution game. It's a numbers game. And that's the thing. And the same thing applies to the indie market and the crowdfunding scene and every other thing. That's all it is. So if there's creators out there that they look at that and go, oh man, my book is better. Well, what the hell? Well, yeah, sure, your book might be better, but that's not what's drawing in the sales, the attention. So if YouTube isn't your thing, find what is. If it's blogging, if it's tweeting, posting, whatever the hell, you got to find some avenue, some angle of, how do I get the word out there to people?
Have you spoken to Paul Thayer, the Project Gnosis guy? You know him?
Not at length. I haven't spoken to him at length.
He's really interesting. So, I've been doing this show for 5 years now. He's probably the only guy that I've seen come through from the other direction. So he started in comics, selling at conventions with his one comic, and then that became 2 comics, and then it kept growing and growing, and he would go around from convention to convention, and every time he did, he'd make more money. He would reinvest that into making comics, and he was making a comic a year, and he did that for a few years, and he's now at the point where he's able to make 4 comics in his series every year and trade paperback, and he's got this whole display now. and he's going to all of them, like New York, San Diego, all the and small and big, and he's crushing it. Now his background is he's a sales VP, so he has that gift of the gab. He's got that hustle, he's got that drive, but he's built this readership, he's built this company from conventions, and then he's heard about crowdfunding and come over here and said, oh, we can do a little bit of extra on, get some extra funds here on the internet. So he's come to us already established through that. But he doesn't really have much of a YouTube or social media presence or anything. So like people don't know about him over here.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that kind of do that sort of Comic-Con book tour kind of thing. It's a grind. It's a grind. Like, I don't mind doing the virtual book tour, like popping in on a channel and from the comfort of my home.
Yep.
But just doing, I did the grind of signings and book tours and bookstore signings and stuff like that for a few years, maybe like 5 or 6, and it's grueling.
Yeah, this guy has a lot of energy. You should definitely get him on your show, chat to him, because he's really interesting, really cool fella. The book looks great. I've read 2 issues. It's a sort of like
so
it's a very modern kind of superhero team sort of book.
That's
a lot of people really seem to like. We got a member chat here from Katie Did. She says, "Hail Pete, good to see you. Hello Bancroft, hope you're doing well, hun. Pete, got my comics last week. Thank you so much. Hail CG. Thank you.
I hope you like them. Thank you."
And she got hers before I got mine. But I'm on the other side of the world, so it makes sense.
I sent yours out sometime in mid-January, maybe. Dude. It is what I mean. Look,
it is
what it is. Yeah,
it's crazy. It is so much more expensive to get books out of the US into the US. Like, if you want to, like, start up a company, start one up in South America or Eastern Europe. Their shipping prices are dirt cheap, and you can send all over the world. It's crazy. But
get those Colombian drug dealers to switch.
They had the distribution already made, set out. It's all there. It's the pipeline into the States.
Exactly. It's distribution.
It's called the guy's name is Paul Thayer. I'll put it in the chat, and his book is It's kind of a weird name to say. He says it really cool. I don't really know how to say it.
You said Project Neosis?
Project Neosis, yeah, and he's Paul Thayer. I've read him on a bunch of times now. I wanted to ask you, have you ever been to Europe, Pete? Have you been to France? Have you been to Italy?
No. The only outside the US country I've been to is Canada.
In France, they have villages everywhere, and it's so weird because they're kind of old villages. You feel like you're driving through, time travel, and like it's really very pretty. And you'll get into there'll be a town square. It's like in friggin' Beauty and the Beast. It's really like that. The shops are a bit more modern these days. Cobblestone streets and old facade buildings. It's very nice. And then in almost every village, I'm not saying big towns, almost every village, there will be a bande dessinée store. And that, if anyone doesn't know, bande dessinée means drawn strip, which is essentially their word for comic books, but they're not comics like we know them. Here's one right here. This is actually the one that inspired me to make the listen. This one right here. So they're all like this.
What size is that? That looks large.
It's huge. Here's my one. So that's regular US size.
Wow. Is that like 10 by 12 or something?
It's huge. I don't know what it is exactly.
Wow.
It would be in metric. It wouldn't be in inches. That's for sure. He's French. Man, it's crazy, and it's just full of these things you've never heard of. These series. I mean, some of them you have heard of, probably Tintin and Lucky Luke and Asterix and everything, but a lot of other ones, and the art in them is just crazy good. And they usually will have a small section of Marvel, and it's the tiny little section will just be trade paperbacks. They don't really deal in floppies at all, but they're everywhere, and everyone reads them, young, old. I bought a bunch. I took them home. I left them on the table, and Mel's dad is reading them. My dad would never read a comic. That would just wouldn't happen. He got my comic. He's like, oh, this is really cool. Put it to the side.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I always say that's what we in the Anglosphere gave up. We dropped that. We had a culture where young kids would get into comics. I don't think we ever really had a culture where it would continue on throughout, into adulthood and ever, or like elderly, even when you're
That's
old.
all we have now.
And that's the sort of impossible. That's kind of the seemingly impossible thing to get back. Like I don't know.
Once
how
you
that
lose a
is
generation or two, that's tough. And they conceded that ground to everything else. They kind of there's a defeatism.
Who won the war, Pete? Was it us or was it them? Because it seems like these Japanese, they won it.
They won in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
They won in a roundabout way. It's like again, it's like that South Park is another South Park episode. It's like that Shin Pokemon episode. They just took the long game of revenge. I
wonder, like that's actually a thing, like that. I think other cultures do focus on the long term, whereas we're all about this quarter. We're all about this month.
A lot of the immediacy, a lot of that's where a lot of the short-sighted thinking, I think, stems from. But it really is. It's weird to see, because the same situation, from what I've been told, exists in Japan, where they have all these stores all over the place that sell manga and stuff. Right now, for most people, like even in the chat, like if you guys can just even let me know how far away, distance wise or time traveling wise, is it to get to your local comic shop. I'm blessed that like within a half hour, I think I've got 2 or 3 shops. But I know tons of people where they could travel 1 or 2 hours and still not hit a shop. And maybe they used to be able to hit a shop within a half hour to an hour, or at least they could totally see comics in the grocery store or a convenience store or wherever. And then all those things eventually just
we still have the Phantom on sale at most post offices. So there'll be a very small selection that's shrunk over the years of boutique magazines. Wow. And in there'll always be a Phantom comic book. They're still doing it in 2025. It's crazy. I mean, I stopped reading the Phantom. I started it. I think I read 2 issues. I was like, it's all right.
You know who's got great distribution here anyway? I don't know if they're in Australia. They probably are, but I don't know how prevalent they are. Let me know if you see them. Is Archie. Archie has great distribution.
No, I've never seen an Archie comic. The only place I've ever seen an Archie comic was in a comic book shop. I don't know. There's never really a thing. We know of it here, but at least for me, I never saw it.
Might be too Americana, maybe.
Yeah.
For us,
the Ghost Who Walks. He does. He lives down here to this day, and it makes you wonder, like, how many different ways can you tell a story about a man out in the jungle punching people in the face with a ring and, getting into shenanigans? I guess, forever, indefinitely. But I wonder, surely he must be getting close to a public domain, if he isn't already.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He's one of the original kind of 1 foot in pulp, 1 foot in superhero kind of characters.
Yeah, the problem always with the public domain stuff is the trademarking, not necessarily the copywriting.
Yeah. You can't make, Phantom books. You have to make Purple Man books or something.
Yeah, and like you can call them the name within the book, but you can't title it, because then you're naming the product, the trademark.
Yeah.
But
it's not like people are going to be able to just come up with Batman books all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I always look at the public domain stuff of whatever is truly in public domain, and you could just rest assured that if you come a little too close to ripping this thing off, you probably won't get sued. But it's not really. I don't really gravitate towards wanting to make a public domain character, my thing, or modernize.
Yeah, I've liked a couple of them. So you've got Six Gun Gorilla, Brian Criscale did one. You've got Black Terror. Von Klaus has done one. I'm sure there's others that I've read and I just maybe wasn't aware of it. But I'm with you. I would much rather create my own thing.
Even if it was heavily inspired even by the public domain character. But there's so much out there. There's so many creators that are making some great stuff, and it just drives me nuts, because I think if the distribution system was actually healthy and robust, I think we'd have a very different comic industry too. And I don't think so many people that are in it would be like the crabs in the bucket effect. You know, I don't think it'd be that way.
Yeah, if everything was booming, there would be less.
They're making more money. There's more to do. You know, so you wouldn't
right
have
now
the
there's a lot of
perfect
counting other
storm
people's money
Yeah.
and sniping at each other, and you know everyone's fighting for eyeballs. So you know what gets eyeballs, all the gossip and interpersonal drama and everything. We all understand that. We all understand how entertainment works. But if everyone was just making an absolute butt ton of money on their books, then you know it would stand to reason that you would gravitate towards reinvesting back into that.
Yeah, and then the compete level wouldn't be necessarily among like the sniping and the drama aspect of it, but it would be among like, oh man, look at what they're doing with that book. I gotta find a way to compete. I gotta get better. I gotta tell a story that, you know, gets some of that audience my way. And it would be more of that. But when the audience seems kind of finite and ever shrinking, if anything, it really becomes like a morality quest of like, well, I'm a better person than that person, so that's why you should support me. And it eventually, you know, like no one's perfect, so you could dig up dirt on everybody if you really, you know, wanted to do that, and then harp on it for forever. And once the mudslinging gets going, it's tough to stop.
Yeah, I had a guy tell me the other day he can't trust me because someone tagged me in a tweet like 2 years ago. And, you know, it would be great if you could say, okay, but what do you think of the book? Like, do you like the story? Do you want to continue reading it? But I guess, like, for him, priority number one is me as a person, whatever principles he has and how that conflicts and everything. And that's that's just kind of the reality of what we do selling on.
And I get it. Like, if, you know, if you're like an absolutely horrible person, like, you know, you murder kids or something, I don't want to read your comic.
Yeah.
But if, you know, you and this other guy didn't get along at that, you know, for some period of time or whatever, like there's people who like, I really don't care for them. I don't really care to talk to them. I don't like them. They like me or not like me. I have no idea. But I would never say you shouldn't read their books or you shouldn't like them at all, or, you know, go ahead, go for it.
Yeah.
I seriously, like, there's so many people out there who've tried to wish me so many bad outcomings and results. I don't wish any of that for them. I hope that they all succeed. I hope they're so busy and they succeed so much that they never have a thought about me for the rest of their lives.
I think I'm of the same mind. And plus as well, it's just better for everyone. If good stuff is getting made and fans are happy, customers are happy, it's better for everyone.
Oh yeah.
I like this idea from Critical Reads. You need to start a company called Uber Reads. There you go, where you can get books delivered to your home. Convenience is becoming the norm. Dude, Amazon is a bit like that. You can get sort of almost same day delivery sometimes.
You know what I've never understood, and at least when I've talked to librarians, they say that they just like they can't do a comic borrowing system. Because I'm like, you have magazines to borrow. But you don't have comic books. Why not? Why not comic books? You have graphic novels, you have magazines. Comic books are basically a graphic novel as a magazine. You know, why not magazines that are comic books? You know, and borrow them out. And there's never a good answer for that. And I always thought that would be a great thing to see.
Well, do you think it's might because of the floppies are a bit fragile?
Yeah, but like so are the magazines. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's one of those things of like kids, like paper's paper. So the paper in like a book at the library is the same kind of paper that's going to be in a comic, and you flip through it or whatever. I think maybe there's a collectability factor, but then again, like I think that's null and void, because you also have a lot of books in libraries that have been about over the years where they're valuable too.
Oh yeah, can
So,
you imagine going in and grabbing a first edition Harry Potter back off the shelf in the mid '90s?
or even something, classic from like the 1800s. There's books that I've found in the library, and I'm like, wow, 1896, this was printed. This is crazy. That's way more valuable than some comic printed in 2025. So I get it. They can't get their hands on like Action Comics #1, so they go for the trade. I get like the scarcity factor, but at a certain point in time with comics, it seems like there's so many comic shops that could even have like a system where they talk to their local library and they're like, look, I have more comics here than I even know what to do with. Can I give you guys some comics? And you have now comics that you can borrow out to people. It just there seems like there has to be something. I think we're thinking too inside the box, and obviously the box is broken. The box is horrible. The box needs to be reevaluated and rebuilt, and we need new, fresh ideas, and we need bigger voices that want to spearhead some of those ideas. But instead, it feels like everything has become so insular in the industry that the only hope of it growing and expanding at this point really is indie creators getting out there, pounding the pavement, whether physically or virtually, and getting the word out about what they're doing. And I think that the indie creator is going to be the person that actually helps to make sure that this medium survives, as opposed to eventually someone in corporate is going to go in there and be like, wow, so we put out this movie that failed last year, but it made more money than our entire comics output for the whole year. And that's going to hit them hard. And it's going to be the end of the comics line. And then what?
Mm-hmm. Well, people will always want good stories. That's just human nature. That's an immutable thing that will never change. Human beings want good stories. I think people want new good stories. I mean, seemingly you look at Hollywood lately, it's just everyone wants the same story told over and over again. But, so regardless of the medium, I mean, you and I, we obviously believe that comics are a fantastic medium to tell good stories.
The best.
It's just about convincing other people that could be the case.
Yeah.
And that's where that Stan Lee character is needed.
Do you think there is a conspiracy to keep the comics down? The reptilian overlords don't want
it. Yes. I mean, obviously, clearly.
Clearly.
Just look at what's happening out there in the world. Did you see, all the drones and orbs? What happened to that? Where'd they go? They just disappeared overnight. It was the only thing anyone's ever talking about, and then it just disappeared. Has to be connected to comic books somehow.
Obviously.
I don't know how long you have to talk. I'm not working today, so anytime you
we could easily go another half hour. We haven't dived into the any woo-woo weirdness just yet. If you want to dive into some of that.
I do. I do.
All right.
Because there's so much that's been happening. We didn't talk about what's going on under the pyramids. I don't know where you stand on that. I don't know if you know anything about it.
That's pretty crazy. With they did a ground penetrating radar kind of a thing, and they found something that's like a 2 kilometers down structure that looks like a coil. I think when I saw that, I thought it was like, this is what Tesla was talking about, trying to get like that piezoelectric.
Yeah, how activity. He lit up the whole town without wires.
Yeah, and what he was trying to build at Wardenclyffe, that they just they didn't give him the rest of the money to do the funding for that to complete the tower. But
and Edison completely destroyed him.
Well, there was a whole thing of like, well, he's not American, and it was very anti-American sympathies towards Tesla with some of the stuff he was doing, and it was really pitched that he's going to make that death ray, and so a lot of that stuff kind of fell to the wayside. But what he was trying to do, and what he did manage to accomplish to some small effect, is that whole piezoelectric activity with like the way that you have these like granite and quartz, and there's all other kinds of minerals that you put them under pressure and they exert an electric charge.
And the bigger they get, the bigger the charge.
Yeah. So it almost seems like whatever the hell was going on, if that stuff is under the pyramids and that kind of thing is occurring, I know Christopher Dunn had that whole like the Great Pyramids of Power Plant sort of thing. And there's a lot of other evidence there to kind of back up some of his hypothesis. But that in and of itself, like that structure, if there really is like a structure that's going down 2 kilometers, that goes down deeper into the earth than the tallest building goes up in the sky. Like, who the hell built that?
Yeah. And multiple things about it. First of all, they've known that there were things underneath the pyramids since forever. They've known that. You know, the further down you go, the older you get. They've known that for a long time. What's new is they're using this LiDAR technology to find what it actually looks like, and it seems seemingly way more expansive than anyone could have ever imagined. And I see people out there poo-pooing the idea, like, no, this can't be real. It's all it's all a psyop, whatever. Like, they've used this technology all over the world accurately on all kinds of different mound sites and found all sorts of stuff that they have then dug up, and it was there. So, I mean, obviously no one knows 100% yet if it is what it appears to be, but you got to factor in the possibility that whatever was there was built, and we talked about a little bit of this on your show, eons, a long time before what we're thinking. And you know, I looked into that after our show a little bit. I watched a couple of videos. I looked into some stuff about the whole kind of like more geological timescale stuff, the ice age sort of stuff. And we're actually due to head into another ice age. Like, forget the global warming. If you look at the trends, we're actually due. And what I didn't know about this is that these ice ages, they would, if say a new ice age were to happen, and then whatever, it would only take 10,000 years for every single part of our like if we were to go, every single part of our civilization to be completely destroyed except for stone. So I guess like the what is it called? You know, all the kind of monuments and Rushmore and everything that would exist after 10,000 years, but after 100,000, even that would be gone. The only thing after 100,000 years or a couple 100,000 years that would be left from us is anything that was made of stone that's buried. Everything else would be gone, and that's crazy.
Yeah. It really is. It's insane to think, because we're told that human beings in our current state have only been around for really not that long of a period of time, and to think that as a species we've accomplished so much, that we've dominated the entire planet in the way that we did, to the point that they're telling us that we're breaking the planet, that we're killing it, because we're just here, and we exist too much. Like, we're bending the will of the planet to what we want it to be. I think we human beings are far older than. There's no way we're as old as they think we are. And so is it all aliens? I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what it is. I think human beings are older than they say that we are. I think there's a lot of
civilization at the very least, because everything we're talking about, that is that everything points in that direction. Everything, every new find, they keep pushing it back further, another 10,000, another 20,000 years further back.
Here's another crazy thing, and I don't know if the two worlds have ever joined, because I really believe in kind of like a unified theory of everything. Like, I don't believe in like this compartmentalized, like even within the paranormal, that like, there's the Bigfoot people, there's the alien people, there's like, and none of them mix, like there's no way that there's no connection whatsoever. I think everything's connected in some way, even if we can't really see that connection. But imagine if, and I don't know if this is possible, I'm just throwing it out there, whenever we have like the ice ages that come around and this and that, imagine if that were to tie into like the Anunnaki and the Nibiru kind of planet, and the exertion of that gravitational force is slightly pulling the Earth away from the sun at that point, and that's what brings about an ice age. And so if this planet, which like if there really truly is like some kind of planet or a ship or something that has some kind of gravitational force on us, and we know about it in any way, shape, or form, the powers that be would never let that get out, because holy crap, would civilization
didn't they let slip that they have like time and dimensional technology or something the other day?
Yeah, that they're working on a weaponry for space to bend space time. Like, what's wrong with us?
Yeah, so I mean, God, who the hell knows?
There's something in our DNA, something in human DNA, or whatever branch of humanity that individual or individuals is from, that they're racing towards what they would define as progress, but the rest of us would define as extinction.
Yeah,
And there's something that's there that exists that has always been there, because like we've always met, like, you know, the pride comes before the fall. There's hubris and arrogance, and like we're masters of the universe, and not in the cool He-Man way, but in like the horrible, you know, we're gods, and we can do what we want because we understand things, but we don't understand shit. And we keep thinking that we really do, and we always get like right there, and then we're like, oh, I don't think we can stop this extinction level event now.
well, yeah, maybe that's what happened on Mars. Like, I don't know. I saw an article of someone saying that, yeah, the previous civilization was on Mars, and then maybe we're the people who, you know, fled whatever happened there onto Earth.
Hey, yeah,
then, and then and now you just, over thousands of years, you just forget, and whatever was going on Mars
even the very concept of like, we get World War II hits, and like the Nazis were big into space and all that crap, and you get Roswell in 1947, and then all of a sudden it just seems like the idea of going to space seems like that we should do that, and it's never really like a true valid reason. Like, what on earth would you like make you think I want to go into space? Like,
so you can do a photo op with Katy Perry, obviously.
Like, it just seems like the only reason that thought is within, and it goes way past the, you know, explore beyond the horizon kind of mentality. I think the only reason we could even have the inkling of that thought is because it is ingrained. There's DNA within us. There's
I agree with that's an interesting point. I mean, I agree with Elon that it's just untenable that the human beings would stay on Earth alone forever, because eventually something is going to happen here. There's been 5 major extinction events since life has been on Earth, and they've all been different. There was algae, there was global freeze, there was asteroid.
And I get that, but at the same time, like, we're racing to go to a planet that's in far worse shape than Earth, and we're thinking like that's a dead planet with a core that's dead and has no electromagnetic field, so we would be destroyed by solar radiation. How the hell are you going to reactivate that core? You're going to get Arnold Schwarzenegger over there to stop the reactor.
All you need is someone with a hand that can do that, and it goes on the thing. Remember,
give these people some air. You just got to send him over there.
Merely engineering issues that someone more
merely.
Most making some good comments here. Gain of function virus research. We have mad scientists just doing their thing, no breaks. Also says we got CERN, AI, and real life Terminators all at once. I saw in China someone made a mech for their bunny. And it wasn't function, like it walked around and everything. So they put a bunny in a mech and it's walking around. They put like a fake gun on it, but I mean, it could easily be a real gun. You've seen those robot things running around. They could be running around shooting people in 5 years' time. Easy.
They're training them over at MIT with those robots. They're training them how to shoot guns. It's like, okay.
Did they not watch iRobot? We all saw that, didn't we? Like, do you remember when the AI? I don't know how real it is, because I don't know how much I trust AI is actual AI. But.
There's like a fork in the road of like the human beings who want to create and the human beings who want to destroy. There's a yin and the yang kind of thing, you know, and it feels like it's out of balance, it's out of whack. And you kind of need both, even though obviously you don't want to see people destroy other people and the planet and life and this and that. But you could rest assured, because there was kind of a balance to get the bad side, you know, keep them in check. And now it feels like there's too much on the destroy path, to the point that like What's gonna? How bad could it get? We gave the robot a gun. How bad could that be?
Have you seen how they move? Like, you see that one when it gets up and it like turns around, doesn't move like a human because why? It doesn't need to. It can
Yeah, it's
do
like
other things.
all of us. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and then that's always freaky. And then this, what are you going to do? You've got a shotgun. What are you going to do when 200 armed drones fly over your house? You'll be able to get 2 or 3.
Oh yeah, I mean they already have drones that have like flamethrowers attached that destroy hornet and bee nests and all that other kind of stuff on.
Yeah, that'll be the
statuary
future.
and-
We've seen videos of drones attacking people in Russia and Ukraine. You know, whoever has the drone, remember it's like air superiority. Now it's like drone superiority. That's who wins.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why you got to get King Crypted before the world ends. You know, you got to go to kingcrypted.com and back issues 10 to 13
Exactly.
because our time is limited.
That's how you pitch. That's how you pitch a book, everyone.
Yeah.
Before the end of the world, you don't want to go to your grave knowing you missed out on King Crypted.
That's what I'm talking
That would
about.
be a disaster.
Oh, yeah. You know, you had all this time and what'd you do with it? You didn't even read King Crypted. What the hell? You know,
Segway
like, of course,
master.
Of course,
Speaking
the
of King
extinction level
Crypted,
event is going to happen. You haven't even read King Crypted.
speaking of King Crypted, which you can get at kingcrypted.com, or I think that takes you through to the Indiegogo page.
Yeah, kingcrypted.com will take you to the Indiegogo, and alternaticomics.com/kingcrypted will take you to the site. I'd prefer that you went to the site, the Alterna site, but you know, go wherever you want to go, wherever you're more comfortable with.
Wherever you want to do it. Speaking of that, promises made, promises kept. I did have a stretch at a super chat goal that if we get 5 super chats, that I would draw a King Crypted sketch card. That was achieved before the stream even started. Then Smiling Bandito sent 5 memberships. He said, hey, make another one. All right, I'll do that. I'm going to make one for Critical Reads as well. So I got 3 to make. I'll make a short about drawing the best one of them. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to go here, but I'm going to give 2 away. And to do that, I haven't tested out this my fancy Fireside chat thing here with if I share a screen, but let's see how we go. I don't know what's going to happen. Share screen. All right. Oh, that's fair enough. It won't let me. Yeah, that'll do. All right. Type rigged in the chat if you want to get whatever. No promises like how good it's going to be. I'll do my best. I've never drawn King Crypted before. Maybe I'll draw something that isn't King Crypted, like one of your other characters. I will draw King Crypted.
Yeah, there's King Crypted. People love Behemoth. People love Victor Lugo, the Cryptid Hunter. Yeah. There's all kinds of
so much to draw. So many characters.
Brug, the swamp monster. He's fun.
While you're at alternaticomics.com, why don't you also go over and subscribe to Pete's channel, YouTube, Alterna Comics, where he does weekly comic book radio shows.
Yeah, I got the Alterna Comics YouTube channel, and then we also have it's my personal channel, which is just youtube.com/Peter Simeti. And you could go there and subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, appreciate you guys.
Have you ever done one of these giveaways?
No, I never have. What
awesome.
site are you using to?
This is StreamYards. This is StreamYards. Yeah, you just do StreamYards.com/giveaway. And it's already linked up with your account and everything. You just pick your stream,
that's cool.
Pick a name. I use rigged. People say I rig these because yes, I have entered my own giveaway. We will figure out what happens. I didn't do it on purpose. I just typed rigged in the chat by accident. And if I win, give it to Mo. He's earned it tonight with all his humor. He has. That is true. All right. So we got 2 to give away. Where are we going here? Where are we going? I'm going to do a drum roll. The first winner of the undrawn, not yet drawn King Crypted sketch card goes to and the winner is I saw myself. It is SDA.
Hey.
Congratulations, SDA.
Congrats.
It is you.
That's great.
Look at that. So what you got to do, just reach out to me, DM me, send me your address, and I will I'll shoot that over. So that will be let's say you get the King Crypted, and then the next one will get whatever other character I choose to draw. How about that? Whatever takes my fancy, whatever I feel like I'm capable of. Clap, clap, clap. Yes, thank you. Woo, everyone. Excellent. Great. All right. Now, for the second winner. Let me get rid of this. Everyone is congratulating SDA. You can't win twice, SDA. I made it so you can't win twice. So you're out of it for now. We've got Maromi in the house. All right. He's just entered. He's typed in rigged. Mugen1, type rigged in the chat, and you will be entered to win a sketch card. All right. There we go. And here, I'll give him half a second. I'm going to play the drum roll. Looks like he's entered. Excellent. Rick Saylor's in there. Look, everyone's coming in. Good to see. All right. And the winner of the second card goes to... Will it be me? It is Casey Anthony. Congratulations, Casey Anthony. Been here the whole show. Very active in the chat. Very happy that she's been able to turn her life around after all these years. And she says, do it again. You don't want it? If you don't want it, you have to nominate. Can't dox myself. All right. Well, then nominate someone in the chat that you want to give it to.
Could you do it again?
I could do it again. She said,
Maybe
no.
do it
All
again.
right. All right. I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. It's
Do
example
it again.
All right.
Do it again.
Oh, she says Mo Biggs.
Oh, Mo Biggs. All right.
There we go. That's good. That's good. Excelente. All right.
That's awesome. I got to try that out.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I've done it for a bunch of stuff. Mo says, don't do it again. I won't gatekeep him. Mo. I will make you a card of one of Pete's characters. Now that is rigged. It certainly is. So I've got some drawing to do. So we are going to leave it there. I'll put up the short tonight, Pete, and I'll let you know. Hopefully it'll look good. I haven't set up a camera before to do a drawing, like a live drawing before. So hopefully it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. It'll probably have my hairy hands in it, but you know, I guess that'll probably go with King Crypted.
It goes with it. Yeah,
exactly. It fits.
Yeah.
Everybody go subscribe to Pete Simeti. Go get King Crypted if you haven't got it yet. There's so many issues. How many issues up to now? 13?
Yeah, we're funding 10 to 13 and 1 to 9 are in stock. So you could pick those up at the Alterna site, or you could do the whole catch-up tier on the 10 to 13 campaign on Indiegogo if you want to do that. But if you want to get 1 to 9 right now before backing 10 to 13, you can get 1 to 9 on the Alterna site and then just go back to 10 to 13 if you enjoy those.
I've heard nothing but good things about King Crypted, and I
Same
do have
here
my
so
copy
far, so yeah,
waiting for me.
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't be too long to wait. Hellraiser says, and they're very, very reasonably priced, which we do like to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's at alternacomics.com, Pete's YouTube channel. I will be streaming tomorrow, which I don't normally do, but I will be, because we're doing the new show with Rob. We're going to drag Rob on the channel and see what he thinks about various different things. Rob is a grumpy fella, Pete, and we're going to see if we can please him.
Okay.
With the things that I show him. Alda says King
It might
Crypted
help
is a lot
if you're
of fun.
trying to please him. It might help if you put that saxophone music on again.
That will be good. Actually, now that you mention it. King Crypted is a lot of fun, really solid classic comic styled series. Pete, killing it.
Thank you.
You guys need to do an only weird stuff show. Yeah, well, I've got a selection of things I've bookmarked, so we'll see how we go. Excellent. Well, Pete, it's always a pleasure. Let's do this again not like in a year's time. Let's do it again sooner.
We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it again. So
we'll do it on your channel.
We'll do it nice and slow.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Let me go see if anyone else is streaming. We could do it. We could set up a raid, share the love, send it forward, pass it on. Happy Easter to everyone out there. Oh, the Don is. Hope everyone has a happy Easter long weekend. Spend time with the family, and I will catch you all on the flip side. All right, guys. See ya. All right.
Perth made an Australian video, and I wasn't even in it.
Emotional damage.